Today we're going to be learning about minerals by doing a simulation. So what you see on your screen is a mineral sample. And we're going to figure out what exact mineral this is. And as we do this, you're going to answer the questions that come up on the side. So, sample A. Let's start by looking at its crystal shape. So you're going to look at these 6 choices over here and decide what you think the shape of this crystal is. Is it hexagon, cube, rhombus, pyramid, rectangle, or irregular? Sometimes this is a little bit difficult, but try your best. So this one would actually be more like a hexagon, maybe irregular. Sometimes it's classified as both. Next, we're going to look at its luster. And the luster is how it reflects light. And so we're going to just bring it down here and compare. Does it look metallic, like a metal? I guess almost, but let's see. Glassy? Yeah, I think it looks glassy. Not pearly and not dull. So decide which one you think it is. I'm going to say that one is glassy. Next, we are going to look at the density. So as you learned in Unit 1, density is the amount of mass in a given volume. So we need to take the mass, measure the mass of this mineral, and that's 36.4 grams. And then we're going to measure its volume. So remember that number, 36.4, and we're going to now measure the volume by putting in this water, and we're going to look at how much the water is displaced. And it tells us up here. So the volume here is 14 milliliters. So we're actually going to calculate by dividing. I'm going to take out my handy dandy calculator, and we're going to do 36.4 divided by 14. And you should be doing this as well. And what do you get? We get 2.6. All right, so the density is 2.6. Next, we're going to look at its hardness. The hardness of a mineral tells us essentially how easily it can break. Right? So if a mineral can scratch something, it means it's harder than the thing it scratches. If it doesn't scratch it, it means whatever you're trying to scratch is harder than your mineral. So we're going to take this sample, and we're going to scratch it on a fingernail, which we know has a hardness of 2.5. So we know that this has to have a hardness higher than 2.5. Now let's try the penny. All right, scratches that. The steel plate, yep. And well, obviously the glass, because it scratched the steel plate. So we know that it's harder than all these things. So it has to be at least 7 on the Mohs scale of hardness, because the steel plate was 6.5. So we know it's got to be between 7 and 10, because 10 is the hardest. And then we're going to look at its streak. The streak tells us about its powder color. So if you scratch the plate, this should be, in real life, it's a ceramic plate. And if there's a color, that would be its streak. But for this one, because it has a hardness higher than 6.5, it's not going to have a streak. So there's no streak here. And then we're going to look, actually, no, we're not going to do the acid reaction. So now we're going to try to figure out what is this mineral. But we have to remember all the characteristics that we looked at. So we're going to go to this mineral identification key. Now the crystal shape, I think we said it was a hexagon or irregular. We said it was glassy. And the density, so the density is a very easy indicator to look at here. 2.6 we said. So let's see. We have a 2.6 here, And hexagon, irregular, glassy, 2.6. For density, we said it had to have a hardness of at least 7. It had no streak. Remember, no powder color came off on the porcelain plate. And so this mineral name would be quartz. Let's just make sure that there aren't any other ones. So the only other one with a density of 2.6 is this one, but the hardness and the streak are definitely not accurate, as well as the luster. Okay, so we're going to type in quartz here and let's see if we're right. I hope we are right. Yes, we did it. Okay, so now we're going to do another one. We're going to go to sample B. Now, it's up to you to decide the crystal shape, the luster, oops, I froze, okay, and the density. So the mass is 78. You might want to write this down because you're going to calculate the density by dividing it by the volume. The volume is 30. Now we're going to look at the hardness. It scratches the nail, the penny, but it does not scratch the steel plate, and it is scratching the glass. So if the glass has a hardness of 5.5, what is the least this hardness could be for this mineral? The streak, and that's it. So we're going to go to the mineral identification key, and you are going to pick out which mineral you think this is. Remember you have to look at the crystal shape. What was the crystal shape? The color luster, the density, hardness, whether it had a color streak, and then choose the mineral name. Now, you should type in here your mineral name. Or I'll type it in, you need to type it in the side. So, I think it's feldspar. Hopefully that's what you chose as well. And let's see if we're right. Yes, it is feldspar. All right, we're going to do another 2 samples. So we're going to look at this one. Now look at the crystal shape. What do you think it is? Remember, you should write this down so that you have all this information when we look at the key. Now the luster. What do you think it is? Density. The mass is 328.1 grams. You're going to divide that by the volume, which is 17. Then you're going to go to the hardness. It scratches the nail, but not the penny. So we're not even going to bother looking at these other ones because if it doesn't scratch the penny, it's not going to scratch these two. So if fingernail has a 2.5, but it doesn't scratch the penny, that means its hardness is, okay, and the hardness should have been 3. Oops. Now, we're going to look at the streak. What is the color of the streak? Now, we're going to come to the mineral identification chart, and we're going to look at the crystal shape. We know that it had irregular crystal shape. It was a metallic luster. It had a high density, the highest density on this chart. Its hardness was just 3. And the color of the streak was a yellow goldish color. So which mineral is it? So you should have gotten gold. Let's see if that's right. Yep. And now we're going to do one last one. Okay. The shape of this one. Do you think it is? The luster. Oops. That shouldn't have happened. Okay, so what is a crystal shape? What is a luster? Remember to write this down. Now we're going to look at its density. It has a mass of 67.5 grams. You want to write that down because you're going to divide it by 25. So what is the density? And then the hardness. Scratches the nail, not the penny. So again, similar to the gold sample, what is the hardness here? Let's double check. Yep, doesn't scratch the penny. All right, and now the streak. What color is the streak? Now we're going to come back to the key. So our crystal shape was a rhombus or irregular. We should have identified it as being glassy. The density was 2.7. It had a hardness of 3. And the streak was white. So what is the mineral name? I'm going to type it in here, what I think it is. Hopefully I'm right. All right. And that is it.